All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a piece called The Architecture of an Open Field. It's this incredibly short, 14-line text, but man, does it pack a punch. It explores the literal, physical actions of security and, more importantly, the hidden psychological costs of those actions. It starts with this really simple image of land and property, but as you'll see, it eventually takes us somewhere much, much more intimate. Our goal here is to slowly walk through the architecture of these lines, analyze each phase of construction, and discover what it actually tells us about our very own boundaries. So it begins like this. It was an open field. It's such a simple, evocative hook, right? It just firmly sets the stage for us. Before any action is taken, before any plot really unfolds, there is simply a blank canvas. It's a space completely unburdened by the need to possess or protect anything. This single line invites us into this area of complete expanse, a literal landscape that just simply exists, waiting. And this really establishes our baseline for the whole piece: absolute freedom and pure potential. Think about an open field in its natural state. It doesn't reject anything at all. Anyone can just walk across it. The wind blows right through it. There are zero barriers to entry. It is literally the very definition of accessibility. I want you to keep this baseline in your mind because understanding this initial pure state of freedom is absolutely crucial to grasping the true weight of what the narrator does next. Because then, things start to change. Notice the highly deliberate microactions the narrator takes to systematically isolate this once boundless space. It doesn't all happen at once. First, they bought it. That's the act of ownership. But ownership isn't quite enough. It has to be visually defined, right? So they fenced it. A clear boundary is drawn. But a fence without a way in is really just a wall, so they put a gate. And finally, the ultimate act of exclusion. It is secured with a lock. Step by step, the narrator takes a space of pure potential and methodically boxes it in, stripping away its natural openness, all in the name of security. Then we get this line: there were 3 keys. The author states this with such matter-of-fact precision, but think about the extreme intentionality behind that single detail. You don't just end up with 3 keys by accident. This represents a highly calculated effort to secure the property while building in these redundancies for access. The narrator is thinking ahead. They're planning for contingencies. They're making absolutely certain that while the rest of the world is locked out, they themselves will always have a way back in. It's basically the ultimate display of control. And this, number 3, it's honestly the tragic irony of the whole situation. We all know the logic, right? One for your pocket, one for the house, one hidden under a suspiciously fake-looking rock in the garden. This redundancy gave the narrator a complete, yet incredibly fragile illusion of permanent safety. They really thought they had outsmarted the lock. They believed that by having multiple keys, they could somehow maintain the perfect balance between absolute security from the outside world and guaranteed access for themselves. But then, over time, all the keys were lost. It wasn't some dramatic theft or a big event. It was just the quiet reality of time passing. And it's a stark reminder that even our most meticulous plans for control eventually fail us. The narrator built this perfect system to keep everyone else out, and in the slow, grinding reality of everyday life, they somehow managed to lock themselves out too. The control they fought so hard to establish has entirely evaporated. So look at where we've ended up. We've arrived at this stark paradox. On one hand, you have the field once open, accessible, boundless, free. And on the other hand, the field now closed, locked, isolated, completely inaccessible. The relentless quest for security has literally resulted in total exclusion. The narrator wanted to protect this field so badly that they've made it entirely useless. It's this powerful visualization of how the very mechanisms we use to protect our valuable spaces can be the exact things that destroy our ability to actually enjoy them. It is secure, yes, but the keys are lost forever. Wow. I mean, the narrator achieved exactly what they set out to do in step 1, right? The property is secure, nobody can get in. But the victory is entirely hollow. The boundary is permanent now. We are standing at the absolute dead end of the physical landscape we've been analyzing. And right here, at this point of total, permanent isolation, is where the author decides to fundamentally change the rules of the entire text. I wonder who did this to my mind. Suddenly, the ground just shifts completely beneath us. We are no longer talking about real estate or brass keys. The narrator looks at this locked-up physical space and sees a mirror. The realization hits them, and it hits us with stunning force. The field isn't a place out in the physical world. It's a place inside their own head. Now, this realization is wild because it forces us to immediately reevaluate that entire timeline of fencing and locking. All those microactions we talked about, they were actually a gradual process of self-inflicted internal isolation. The open field was the narrator's mind in its natural state, vast, receptive, wide open to the world. But slowly, maybe out of a desire for mental security or a fear of getting hurt, they fenced off their opinions. They put a locked gate on their emotional availability. They built self-imposed barriers to keep out the unpredictable, only to realize they trapped themselves inside. Why did I allow an open mind to be closed? It's such a profound, heavy moment of self-reflection. Notice how the narrator isn't blaming society or their upbringing or some enemy. They use the word I. Why did I allow it? It really urges us to reflect on our own lives. Like, how often do we slowly build defensive walls around our own thoughts, our own willingness to learn, without even realizing we're doing it? We think we are protecting ourselves by becoming cynical or closed-minded, but in reality, we're just losing the keys to our own potential. But wait, the story doesn't just end in defeat. And now I live on hoping to find the keys someday. The finality of the physical lock is suddenly replaced by the resilience of the human spirit. The narrator recognizes the damage is done, and yes, the keys are missing, but they absolutely refuse to simply sit outside the gate. They are focusing heavily on the arduous search for mental renewal. It's this quiet determination to somehow undo the rigid architecture they spent a whole lifetime building. And this shows us that the narrator is actively doing the hard work. Look at what searching for these keys actually requires. First, acknowledging the mind is closed, because you can't fix what you won't face. Second, taking accountability for the locks, admitting that you were the one who built the fences. Third, enduring the passage of time, knowing full well this isn't going to be fixed overnight. And finally, retaining hope for vulnerability. They have to be willing to be an open field again, exposing themselves to the exact things they initially tried to lock out.
So that I can allow new thoughts in. This final line just strips away the metaphor and reveals exactly why this journey matters. An open mind isn't just about being free for the sake of freedom, it is functionally necessary for growth. If your mind is entirely locked up, nothing new can ever reach you. The narrator wants to learn again. They want to experience again. They want the wind to blow through the field once more.
You know, we all start out as open fields, but life just has a way of convincing us to build walls. So I want to leave you with this. What fences have you built in your own mind? And where did you leave the keys? I challenge you to really examine the unseen barriers currently limiting your own potential for new thoughts. Are there perspectives you've completely locked out? Ideas you've fenced off purely for the illusion of mental security? Take a good look at your own architecture today, and perhaps start looking for those lost keys.